Hi, Lori. Thank you for joining us on Secret Entourage.
Thank you. How are you?
Doing very well. And today we're going to be talking to you a little bit about Cheeked, your wonderful dating website, which is kind of a very weird mixture of online, offline
Exactly.
dating. And so, but you have a very interesting story as far as you weren't always in the dating world, were you?
Well, I've been in the dating world for about 20 years, personally.
Okay. So that's probably what sparked the need to start something in that realm, I take it?
I saw something missing in the world of online dating.
Okay, very cool. Well, that's definitely something we're going to get to in a little bit, but tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got your start prior to this latest startup, Cheek. What were some of the things you've done, and more importantly, share a little bit about your architectural design background. Is that right?
Yes, so I'm a Kentucky native, and the day I graduated architecture school, I threw up my hat and packed up a Penske truck and headed straight to New York, and I didn't have a job, and I didn't look back. So I started waitressing and then finally found a job in the design world. So 15 years of practicing architecture and design all over New York City. I worked for companies like Christian Dior doing store planning and design. Now I'm no longer building structures, I'm now building relationships. So one night, 5 years ago, I was out to dinner with another architect after a design event in Soho in New York City. And I had excused myself from the table, and when I came back, Dieter had written on the back of his business card, "Want to have dinner?" And as he and I were leaving the restaurant, he slid that to a woman. And I remember looking back thinking, that's pretty smooth, but minus the personal information on the other side of that business card. So I had the hugest light bulb above my head about having these cards that already had kind of a pickup line or an invite to go to dinner, but minus your work details. I mean, with a business card alone, you can Google someone, you can show up at their office. It's just not an interesting story to hand a romantic prospect your LinkedIn resume. So for 1 year, I walked around like, I've got this great idea, I've got this great idea. I was telling everybody about it, and then weeks later, people would send me an email saying, "You got to build this thing. I just saw the hottest woman in the subway this morning. I needed your product." I mean, I heard it so many times, I realized there's something here. So the 100th time I'd said this to someone, these two guys one night at a Mardi Gras party in New York said, "Let's meet on Monday and bring this to life." So we met on Monday. Within a week, we had a business plan, and we took it from there. So it took us about a year to finally launch Cheeked, and in May of 2010, I had a website.
Well, very cool. Now, you went from corporate America working for others into your own startup and in a totally different field as that. Now, so, did you have any previous startup experience or did you have any type of web understanding to even know, like, how do you give up something you're so comfortable doing for so many years and go into something so different and so new that you really, I mean, unless you've had a lot of previous experience, you really don't know what you're doing?
I mean, that's a really good question, and I feel like I've always been really brave. You know, even the day I moved to New York City. I mean, when I look back and think about that move and just the risks I took, that's kind of how I went into this business. You know, actually knowing nothing. I had a Facebook profile. That's about as techy as I was, and I feel like my design background has really contributed to the design element of my website. It's very clean and simple. I feel like a lot of dating sites almost look like you're going to buy computer software, and mine has this really simple, elegant, streamlined feel about it. So yeah, I mean, it was a risky move leaving my career in architecture and design. I remember the phone call to my parents, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to build a dating website." And they're like, "Oh, that's cute, Lori." And then a year later, I mean, less than a year after I built the site, I'm like, "Mom, Dad, I'm quitting my job to work on my dating website." And they kind of freaked out. But 3 years in, I mean, I've had a call from Oprah Winfrey. I think they realize this is something.
Now, when you gave up just your job going into this, did you do so because of like what the site was generating? Did you do that because you saw a vision? how did you support your own transition from, that steady income to this unknown territory of, having that instability in entrepreneurship, which is kind of difficult for a lot of people to do?
Yeah, so when I look back at that job, my last job that I had when I was trying to build this, I felt like I was cheating on a romantic partner almost. I mean, I'd come into work and I'd try to get my real job work out of the way so I could sit behind that desk and build my business. And I'd go home I'd leave at 5 o'clock on the dot and go home and invest my butt building my business. So I was juggling these two jobs at the same time. I remember when I got covered in the New York Times, I was at that job, and I came into work the next day, and I was sure they were all going to be like, "Oh, so this is what you do all day long." But apparently, nobody in that small furniture showroom in Tribeca reads the paper. And then the next week, I was on the 5 o'clock news on ABC in New York City, and I was like, "Surely somebody's going to tell them that they saw me on the news." But I walk in the next day, and I just knew they were going to say something. They're like, "Good morning, Lori." So, I think it was 3 months later when I felt like I couldn't do both things. So I had built this thing. I'd invested, I think, $25,000 into building this website. So, I mean, I had gambled on myself, and I just thought, yeah, this is going to be something. So I made the leap, and I haven't stopped, and I've done some pretty crazy things to fund this. I mean, I haven't given myself a paycheck in 3 years, and I did have a savings, but that's not going to cut it.
So before we move on to actually talking about Cheek and getting a little bit more personal on that, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are currently working a 9 to 5 and who don't necessarily know what they want to do? They just know they don't fit in, and that they want something different. They want to start their own business. Is there something you can tell them in a sense about how to actually know when to pursue an endeavor outside of what you're already doing on your 9 to 5? When is the right time when you know that's it, that's the one, that's what I need to kind of focus my effort on?
I mean, my story is a little bit different because my idea was kind of an accident. I mean, I feel like I've always had this entrepreneurial itch where I always wanted to do my own thing. And even in my career, I feel like I was very successful and, able to hold a job. But I have never had passion so strongly for anything in my life. This is like a 3-year-old that I'm still nursing to health. That is my baby, and I've got the prettiest girl in school, which is Cheeked. But I feel like if you have this need to build something, I think the best advice is to just infuse yourself into the entrepreneurial world. So networking events, and just meet everybody you can, and go to these other pitch events and talk to everyone. Take advantage of every opportunity, and it's a great place to get inspired by other entrepreneurs and figure out if this is what you really want to do. And when you give birth to something, I think you figure out a way to make it live. And just when you feel passionately enough, I'd say that's the time to say goodbye to 9 to 5.
You said something interesting. You said you kind of meet other people, I guess, in networking events, etc. Is that how you founded the crew that was going to help you do this, since your background is not in IT?
I mean, I'm super social, so I'm always meeting people, always talking to people, which I think has been very advantageous in building my business. But even like the night I met those two guys, they just happened to help people start businesses, and that was just me being social. And they had the contacts with some of the people that we outsourced to build the site. So we built that initial site with a developer in the Netherlands, and our UX designer was in Bolivia. Our graphic designer was in New Zealand. So if you can only imagine the Skype calls, the language barriers, and I was doing all of this from my full-time job office.
Very nice.
I was like hiding in a corner.
Skyping.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears and talk a little bit about Cheek. Tell me more about, you said, or it seems from what I've been able to see and also what you told me earlier, so it's an offline dating kind of website, or it's an offline dating concept that takes the dating then online, so it's kind of reversed?
Yes, so like online dating, say you leave your job and you're ready to go meet the man of your dreams, you go back home and log on, www, and you start searching through profiles online. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, you never know who that is or if it's a reality, that picture, how old that picture is.